So I'm here in my room. I've got my computer on in front of me. I've got my microphone. There's a notepad set up with my notes about my podcast. It's time to rewind. Looks like they're open to the sixth scene of Memento that starts in black and white at 10 minutes and 9 seconds with Leonard talking about his system and ends at 11 minutes and 44 seconds with the phone ringing. Who is this?
Bubba, it's me, Lisa Leaheey from Rabbit Hole Podcasts. You know me. I do that show called Between the Scares about Jason Blum and Blumhouse movies.
Oh, of course, but I prefer to be called Bubbawheat. And who is this?
Oh, hey, Bubbawheat. It's Rob from MovieRob. You know me. I have the my my podcast, and I have a website where I have tons of movies on the website and the podcast. I'm right now finishing up When Harry Met Sally. You know who I am.
Oh, of course. It's good to have you on here this season. It's I think last time I had you on was for the Twilight Zone.
Yes. I did one of the first episodes of Twilight Zone, if I remember correctly.
Oh, one of the
Yeah,
OGs here.
yeah. But before we get started on today's scene, why don't you let me know, like, what's your history with Memento? Do you remember the first time that you saw it? And I know that you rewatch movies quite frequently. Like, how many times have you seen Memento?
Okay, so first of all, I saw it. It's really funny. It's a back in 2000 when it came out. So I was, still even at that point, I was very much into IMDb. I was always checking IMDb for different things, and there was a recommendation from IMDb for a movie called Memento, and I was like, okay, that's really weird. I hadn't heard of it yet, and then I looked at it, and it said it was only coming out like in a month from then or whatever it was. So I knew right away that this is a movie I wanted to see. So I saw it on opening night when it came out here in Israel in 2000, and then I actually saw it a week later with another group of friends. So I had the added advantage of seeing the movie by knowing what's happening. With a movie like
Mm,
this, if you know what's happening, you're watching a completely different movie
yeah.
Absolutely.
than when you went. Then the first watch of this movie is something that it's a great experience, no question about that. But it's an experience that you can never relive.
Yep.
That's one of the quote unquote downfalls of this type of movie is that the first time you see it, it's going to be the most amazing ever, and you're never going to be able to reach that point again because you already have these notions in your mind as to what's going to happen. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing about this movie because it's a great movie, and the fact that I've rewatched it so many times. I probably have seen it at least 20 times. I've even seen it once or twice. In chronological order because I used to own the DVD where you could do that. It had all
Yeah.
those, you have those different buttons that you have to push in order to be able to do it,
Yep.
and then you can watch it in chronological order. Um, it doesn't work as well in chronological order, in my opinion. I think that's part of the catch of this movie is that it works better that you have things moving in both directions.
Yeah, I know we've recorded this out of order, and we will talk about this a few times in the future. But yeah, I'm of the mind where I think that if you're a fan of this movie, I think it's worth watching the chronological version once, like exactly once, and then you
Yeah,
get
I agree with that.
it. It's an interesting experiment to see, and it kind of shows you a different angle. But if you're watching the movie for enjoyment, it's always the theatrical.
Yeah, Lisa has very strong opinions against the idea of ever watching this chronologically. Like, what I love most about it is the scrambled chronology. Why would I ever want to watch it properly? You know what I mean?
Just
Like,
just to
no.
get an idea as to how it looks,
No,
or how it feels.
no, because whatever it is, because I'm so enamored with a scrambled chronology and something that's more atypical and not that, I mean, I'm a narratologist, I'm an English teacher. Like, this is what I do. And so if you give me, plus, like what you said, the fact that you know what's going on going into this film again, the unreliable narrator gets lost, the surprise gets lost. I don't want to watch it that way. I just feel like it would take so much away. I'm just gonna leave it.
But it gets
I'm too
lost.
much of a
It gets
purist.
lost upon rewatch. It doesn't matter which direction you're watching it.
I know, but I can still, like, one of my greatest joys is showing my favorite films to other people, especially my students, especially movies that have some kind of a kicker to them where they have like a surprise. Like I actually have a photograph of one of my film students when I showed them The Usual Suspects, and
Oh
his
wow.
mouth is just on the floor. And it's just amazing because like I watch them when they watch Memento. There's certain scenes where I'm not looking at the screen, I'm looking at them. And I just love that feeling. So just the idea of ever being like, oh, I'm going to watch it in a linear, nah, it'll take the joy from me. I can't do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I understand. What other movies do you like that are non-linear like this one?
Oh gosh. See, now I'm on the spot and I can't come up
Are
with it.
you
Now
are
I'm
you
coming
are
up.
you
Now
like
I'm coming up.
Are you a Pulp Fiction fan?
I like it. I think that it starts to drag toward the end, which is odd. Like I think Pulp Fiction is wonderful, like through the first half, and then about halfway through, I start getting fatigued. I do like stories that have those like what seems like an anthology and they'll come together.
Mm.
I like, like a fun frame story. I love an unreliable narrator, but that's hard to tell people because you say, I love movies with a trick ending, and they go, give me some suggestions. And now
That's
I
right.
can't. I'm sorry, I can't ever do that.
Yes, someone
So
once ruined a movie for me by saying that. They said, "Oh, go see this movie. It's a great movie, and you'll never guess the twist at the end." And I'm like, the whole
yeah.
time I'm waiting. Okay, what's the twist? What's the twist? What's the twist? And that particular suggestion wasn't the greatest twist of any movie.
Oh, that's so much
No,
worse.
well, at least it wasn't for me because I was expecting a twist. Maybe I was expecting something so much greater. It was a David Mamet. It was a David Mamet
Oh, okay.
movie.
Yep.
Yeah, one thing that's kind of spoiled me, and I've noticed that I've seen enough of them, and my brain has kind of been trained to look for the clues, is the character that doesn't exist, like
Yeah.
the one that's only one, like only the main character that can see, or it's their ghost, or it's a character that is a hallucination. I've come into like TV episodes where I've caught on to that just because I've seen so many with that twist where it's like, I noticed that they're only talking to the main character and they're not talking to any other characters. I bet that person is not really there, or it's just in the main character's head. And most of the time it turns out to be right.
Yep. Yep. And that's the kind of thing, like I think of a movie like Identity, where you have this amazing situation where you have all of these people like converge in this motel in the middle of this storm, and like they start dying one by one, and that's not at all what this movie's about, and I think that's brilliant. Like I can say that without ruining anything because it's a movie that's got something,
Right.
but I just think it's so wonderful. And then there's a teacher at school who teaches a psychology class who, any of these films that deal with any kind of mental diagnosis or something like that, these kids watch a movie and they have to diagnose someone. Well, then when they present the movies, they are ruining title after title after title because a lot of times it's something you don't realize until the third act. So I have to kind of grit my teeth and get through that with kids because, oh God, it kills me when things like that get broken up.
Well, they should make it
All right.
that you have to watch the movie before you hear their analysis of it.
I wish, but when you've got 25 titles, it's just not going to happen. I can't get kids to read 2 pages for tomorrow, let alone something like that.
No, but tell them to watch a movie.
They
I
won't.
don't know. They won't, really?
Anything you make homework, they won't. Although I do have a student who asked me for horror movies and a list, and I did give it to her, and she is steadily working through it. So at least there's some.
Well, you see, I had a teacher in 10th grade for creative writing that he said that he really liked what I was writing, but he said I don't feel any passion for the things. So he started giving me specific every week I had to watch a different movie, and he asked
Oh,
me like one
cool.
question about it, and I had to to write an essay about that. And to me that was great. It was like, I actually had an excuse. You said the kids don't, if it's made homework, then you won't do it. But for me, it was like, told my parents, oh, I gotta
It was a
watch,
passion.
Casablanca, for a homework assignment.
Yeah, most of them that won't. You get a handful. You get a handful that will be excited about it, but some of them, I put a movie on in class and they don't want to watch it. So I don't know. I try not to take it personally.
Teenagers.
Telling you.
Yeah, everybody has different tastes and different passions. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump into the scene, and this is really just Leonard kind of setting up his system, and yeah, watching it and watching it isolated, I do feel like it's kind of strange, and it does have a feeling of this is more for the audience than for Leonard, because if you think about it, the fact that he has this note on his taped to his leg that says shave, and he has the bag with the shaving products taped to the window, taped to the mirror in the bathroom. Like, why would he set this up for him to do later rather than just start doing it right then and there?
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have a little bit of problems. I mean, when I yesterday I rewatched the whole movie, right, in order to
Mhm.
keep it fresh in my mind. And I still loved it, but I saw a lot more holes in it than I had seen in the past.
Oh, oh,
You
my
know,
heart breaks.
sorry, Lisa. No, but it's just there's a lot of things that just if you're looking at it from a realistic perspective, this type of story, there's just too many holes in what's going on, and one of them is right here. The fact that okay, he wakes up and he has this note on his thigh saying shave.
Yep.
Okay, so when did he put that there? And there's also a lot of inconsistencies as to how much time he's conscious before everything is blanked. Okay, so in order to be able to set up things like this, you have to know that it's going to happen. I don't think he's walking around all day with a note on his leg saying shave. Something he
I
would
don't
have had to set up beforehand.
I don't know that I agree, because I think part of the point here is this whole element of um not knowing, like, because he doesn't know, we don't get to know either, especially with how early on this is. Like, we have to gradually adjust to what his condition is, and by throwing us into it and kind of just being forced to trust whatever he tells us is the same experience he has, because he comes to, or like refocuses or what have you. Let's say, for example, we have a scene in the color sequence where he sort of comes to in the bathroom of a diner.
Right.
He doesn't even realize where he is, so he kind of wanders out and figures, okay, somebody will recognize me and say something. He's at the mercy of everyone else, and then so are we.
Correct. I agree. I'm not saying that I disagree with that. I'm just saying that some of the things that happen in this movie and in these scenes are things that he would have had to have set up beforehand in order to remind himself. Yes, he has in his room, the map where he can put Polaroids up and stuff like that, to
Yeah.
help him out and stuff like that. He's conscious enough or long enough to be able to set up some of those things. Even though he knows that he has no memories. I don't know if you guys have figured out through the course of watching the whole movie this way, if there are triggers that cause him to lose his is it that he loses his train of thought? Is it that he needs to be
Yeah,
focused? Is it that there's
yeah,
All
a
of the
door
above.
slam? Is it because
yeah,
each time it's
exactly.
different, it's inconsistent. It's
Yes.
not as if that every single time that there's a door slam that he loses his train of thought, or something specific needs to happen.
I
Yeah,
think it's better
it's
that way, because in the short
yeah.
story it's based on, he calls himself the 10-second man or 10-minute man.
Mm.
Um, and when I teach this story, my students get very stuck on that. And they talk about every 10 minutes he resets. And I'm like, no, like, that's just a generalized context. In fact, it's referencing more the 9-minute snooze, because he's in a mental ward, he's in an institution, he's in his room, and he keeps hitting this snooze button, and like that keeps going off. And so it's more a reference to that than anything else, I think. And so for them to lock into, oh, it's every 10 minutes is just not appropriate, because like you said, Rob, there could be any number of things that make him lose his focus, whether he sleeps, whether he gets distracted, whether, I don't know, whatever it is. I don't think there is, nor should there be, a hard and fast rule to this.
No, but how does he set things up beforehand? We're talking in this particular scene about him having the note on his leg saying shave.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I don't know how often he needs to shave. Is this theoretically a new tattoo, and that's why he needs to shave? Is it a shave just so that he can remember? I mean, because he's always going to have to shave then. He's going to get stubble in his leg, and he's going to have to shave it in order to be able to see to see this particular tattoo. So, is the shave to say, okay, it's been a certain amount of time since I've gotten this tattoo that now I can shave? Or is it, because I'm assuming that they would have shaved him before he put on the tattoo. So then, okay, there's a tattoo, and then you have to wait. I don't have tattoos. I don't know what the feeling is. I don't know how it works. Is there a certain amount of time you need to wait before so that you don't infect the area or something? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there is all that, but I do think that in this specific instance, we could theoretically say that maybe he put this on, he went to the store and he went to the motel front desk and wherever he got the razors, and then he just went into the bathroom and then he put this note on his leg in the bathroom for him to see it later, and then maybe it was at night, and so he didn't feel like shaving and tattooing himself that night, because doing a tattoo, it is, and especially a homemade tattoo as we see in this, that is going to take a while. That's a third, especially the size of that too, and using the pen ink, I would say that's probably at least an hour to do that tattoo that we see him do on his leg that he's preparing for in this scene.
It's a good thing he didn't lose his train of thought during that hour.
Well, that's just it. That's exactly
what am I doing?
What you're relying on. It's very true.
Yeah, it is. He and they kind of set things up, because he does have. I mean, I don't think we brought this up whenever we talk about him actually tattooing himself, but he does have this note card in front of him. So, if he does lose his focus, if he looks around and then he looks back, he sees that he has the tattoo and he sees the note saying what he's supposed to tattoo, then he can just get back into it. So
right. Okay, that's true.
He can do this task that takes an hour, even if he does lose his memory at points, because there are enough visual clues for him to know what he's doing at that time.
Right. Mm-hmm. Did you guys ever count how many tattoos he has? I didn't, so don't think I'm going to surprise you and say that I do.
I was like, darn it, Rob! I thought you were going to help me out with this answer.
You know what? I was thinking about it, but I said that this is yours. You guys are hosting here, not me. So I'll leave that to you, since you've probably already done the legwork.
Yeah, it's something that we discussed, and I believe it was either the previous, or I think it will be the next episode.
Okay, so you don't have to give it away then. That's fine. You can. We'll wait until we come. We'll wait until the next episode I'm on if you want to give me the answer.
Yeah, well, it's something that we recorded a while back, so I don't remember the name, the number off the top of my head, but it's something that listeners will hear, I believe, in the next episode we go through, because that's when in the color scene they have the reveal of all the tattoos.
Right, but also you see from that in the reveal that he's not a very hairy person. So,
not really.
So the idea that his legs need to be shaved.
It's not about seeing the tattoo. It's just, it makes it easier to tattoo if you're freshly shaved.
Right. Okay.
So that way, the hair doesn't get in the way of the tattoo process.
Right. No, so obviously. I mentioned that before. That's probably that's what you do. So this is before he's about to put the tattoo on there himself. So that's why he needs to shave it. Right.
Right.
But he's just saying shave. He doesn't say shave and then tattoo. You think that he would have given himself more instructions. Not just the shave.
Nope, he does, because there's a white paper bag on the
where it says left thigh
that says shaved left thigh, and then when he looks at his left thigh it says shave. So when he looks in the bag, he sees the various implements that he's going to need to do.
Right, but it's not in the right order then, if that's the case, because the bag he sees, I think in the next episode that we're going to be talking about next week, isn't it?
He does
Or
see
is
the
it?
bag in this because, yeah, he sees, first he sees the note on taped to his leg, shave, and then he goes into the bathroom in this scene, and there's the paper bag that
Ah,
says
okay, right.
"shave
You're
left
right. You're right.
thigh,"
Sorry.
and it has the all the shaving materials, and so
Yeah,
he gets this is him getting ready to shave, and
right.
through all this, and I think it's great because it is kind of showing him doing things, and then during this process he has the voiceover narration, and
Right.
this is before he's talking on the phone, so it's just him just silently going through this task, but we have this third person narration. It's almost like Christopher Nolan talks about it. He wanted to give it almost like a documentary feel to it.
Hmm.
Right, which makes sense of why it would be in black and white then also. Not just to differentiate between what's going forward and what's going backwards.
Yeah, and so Guy Pearce is doing this narration, like he's narrating what's happening on screen as he's talking about his system,
Right.
and as he's talking about the system, this is a great setup for the rest of the movie because he like everything that he talks about is something that comes up later in the movie. Like he's talking about how you have a jacket that has six pockets and each pocket has different things. And we see multiple times we see him checking his jacket pockets for his Polaroids or for his pen to take notes. And also, he mentions not having to know your own handwriting and being careful about having other people write notes for you.
Hmm.
Which again, that's something that we see much later in the movie that Teddy tries to do. He tries to uh, basically convinces him to write a note, and so he writes it in a different style of
Hmm.
handwriting, so he
Right.
recognizes it to question it later, and he eventually crosses it out.
But
Right.
then he also breaks his own rule because Natalie writes him a note and he trusts that note. He never questions it, like that writing down of where he's going to meet her.
Yeah,
And
and the
there's
eye
no
pencil.
suggestion.
Also the fact that she gives him, the folder with the photocopy.
Right,
Mm.
right. She doesn't do anything sorry, he doesn't do anything to question any of this.
Yeah, and,
So
and, and I
it's
think
really
we'll talk
interesting.
about more about that in the next episode. I definitely have some notes along those sort of lines.
Gotcha.
Right.
And and then this scene ends with this is the first phone ring that we get in this black and white scene, which is something that happens a lot. And I think that it again tells us, it gives us insight into Leonard's state of mind, because what do most people say whenever they answer the phone?
No, they say hello.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Not who is this?
Leonard answers,
Who
"Who
is
is
this? Right.
Right. No, but I think also maybe you guys can put me on the right path here, but I think even his narration here is somewhat incorrect about all the things because you know he knows he has. How does he know that he has this problem if he can't form memories?
Well, he can actually form new memories, but he has to form them a different way. Like it's a different process. Like he doesn't form memories the normal way that most people do, where you have your short-term memory, and then it's I think there's actually like I didn't look into this, but it's just based on my experience. You have like your short-term memory, your kind of medium-term memory, and then you have your long-term memory. Uh, because like he and Leonard is not able to form new like medium-term memories.
Right.
He's only able to have the short term, the like 5 to 15 minutes window of what's going on directly in front of him, and then he's not able to form these medium term memories of like people that he knows, and then he still has his long term memories of like who he is and
Hmm.
his um, his important memories of his life before the incident.
Correct, but part of the things that he says here is okay. He's trained himself to learn to trust his own handwriting
Right.
to have jackets with lots of pockets, and there's certain things that he's mentioning here that are not necessarily things that he would have. he had to figure, as you said, he has to figure out a way of getting stuff to jump from the short term to the long term
Right.
without going through the medium term. And
Right.
they never really explain that to us how he does it.
Right. I mean, he mentions that it's through habit and repetition, and they don't get into the science, but it is actually based on real science. That this is like what he does is accurate to the few cases of anterior grade memory loss that people are able to learn through these different processes through habit and repetition, and they're able to create these new neural connections through these different processes rather than the standard processes. And
Right.
it is like through habit and routine. And this surprisingly is like sound science, and it is based on actual cases and how memory really does work. And I think that's fascinating too, whenever you learn about that.
Right. I agree.
It is an odd kind of like plot hole that you seem to be like, you're asking me a lot to kind of trust that this is a thing. But I think there's certain elements of information that comes later, where we kind of just, again, trusting him isn't a choice that we really have. Like, we have to just sort of go with it because this is his experience. But I get where you're coming from as far as like, well, how does he know these things if he says that he has no new memory because he didn't know this beforehand? But when he claims that he knows it because of Sammy Jenkins, like, for us to put these kinds of absolutes on the way the brain works when science doesn't fully know everything about how the brain works, I think it just gets us into a lot of gray area that I just don't think we're ever going to know.
No, of course not.
And it's just one of those things that we'll go back and forth for like eons on this thing. And it's one of those things I find, because you're definitely not alone in asking the question. I have students who say, well, I need to know. And I'm like, well, I can't tell you because I don't know and I'm not sure they know. And I think that's part of the frustration, both of what we're talking about here, and also, if I can English teacher my way into this, it's how he feels every day. Like, he never understands. He just has to blindly trust. And I don't know. I feel like there's so many different layers to this. It's one of the reasons why I like it so much.
Okay, that makes sense.
I also love ambiguity, so that annoys the hell out of a lot of people. I have to be fair.
I love ambiguity also. But
Nice.
I love ambiguity, but I like that at the end we can at least see both sides.
Yeah, you get something.
Not that they keep it, too open-ended.
Right.
Yeah, there's definitely layers of too much ambiguity and not enough meat. I think Memento toes the line very well for me, at least. But that's all the notes that I have for this scene. Do either of you have anything else for this sixth scene here?
Nope, I'm good.
No, I think we've covered quite a lot.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Rob, for joining us here this week and for the next couple weeks. And why don't you go ahead and take a moment to let everybody else know where they can find you online?
All right. So finding me is very simple. Just do a quick search for MovieRob Minute. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter. And you can find me on my website, MovieRobMinute.com. I'm right now in the final weeks of my season 4, When Harry Met Sally. So you can try to catch up there, or you can, wait until season 5 will begin in a few weeks and join me and my guests to listen to us talk about Die Hard 2.
Yes.
And thank you, Lisa, for joining me this entire season as my co-host.
I still thrilled that you asked me. So this has been fun. I'm enjoying this. We're just getting started here. More to come.
Yeah. And as always, I am Bubbawheat, and you can find me on Twitter where I'm at Bubbawheat, and you can find this show, It's Time to Rewind, on every podcatcher out there pretty much. And we also have a Facebook group, It's Time to Rewind, a time loop group. And you can join that and discuss episodes as they come out, as well as have discussions about other time loop movies and TV shows, and be informed of what things we are covering in future seasons. And until next time, I assume I've already told you about Memento?
Oh, only every time I see you.
Who is this?